In the darkest moments, the promise of excitement can turn women into killers. A charismatic young woman uses the occult for murder.
I just can't understand how 3 other girls would follow this woman with these horrific ideas.
A teen turns jealousy into a murderous game, and the pack mentality takes hold.
We see people in groups doing things that they would never do individually.
A 16-year-old girl picks up a gun and shoots into a schoolyard just because she doesn't like Mondays.
What I see is a person who felt like, I don't have anyone that loves me. I don't have anyone that even cares about me.
These are deadly women, all seduced by the dark thrill of a kill. Madison County, Indiana, January 11, 1992. Don Foley is about to make a terrible discovery along the roadside. A farmer and war veteran, he's used to seeing death and suffering.
I've seen dead animals. I was in the service. I've seen people burnt and stuff, so I'd seen it before, but nothing like that. I thought it was a mannequin to start with, or one of them rubber dolls you hear about. She was burnt real bad from here up.
The young girl's body had been sexually assaulted, tortured, burned. The victim, 12-year-old Shanda Sharer. Even those used to brutal slayings, like former FBI profiler Candice DeLong, were shocked by this crime.
For all the years I've been involved in working with people that committed murder as a psychiatric nurse to my work as an FBI agent, this is one of the most disturbing cases I've ever studied.
For Candice DeLong, it's a tragic case of peer pressure gone terribly wrong, turning teenagers into terrifying killers. Shanda Sharer's murderer is not 1, but 4 school-age girls on the ultimate thrill kill.
Everybody was shocked when we learned the age of the girls involved. I think that, so I know that's what surprised me more than anything else.
Indiana State Police Detective Steve Henry headed up the investigation.
For some reason, the chemistry was right that night between these 4 girls for this to occur.
Alone, young girls rarely commit homicides. But group pressures can override an individual's instinct for caution.
We see people in groups doing things that they would never do individually. Some of these violent attacks by a group against one person, they take on like a pack mentality. And one person is always the leader, and the others are followers.
It started 3 months before, outside a school dance. Amanda Hevron is with her new friend, Shanda Sharer.
I met her in junior high. I was in 8th grade, she was in 7th. We became very, very close. We became really good friends.
But Amanda's ex-girlfriend is brooding. 16-year-old Melinda Loveless.
Jealousy is probably the most common motivator of murder, period.
She had tried to beat Shanda up at a dance. I got between them and told Shanda to run.
The relationships that they get in at that age may seem trivial, but that's their life's breath. That's their world. If somebody interferes with those relationships, things can get pretty rough.
Melinda begins writing letters to Amanda. Frightening letters wishing Shanda dead.
Well, obviously, I didn't think she was capable of murder. I thought maybe she'd just, try to scare her, beat her up or something. That's the Melinda that I knew. I didn't know her as being a violent person.
She convinces some friends. Tony Lawrence, Hope Rippey, and Lori Tackett to take a joyride to Shanda's house. None of the three had ever met Shanda.
It's easier to do something when you've got a group of people. You can share the responsibility, share the guilt, share the blame.
Melinda has assembled her pack. The only question now, how far will they go?
There is no doubt in my mind that Melinda intended to cause the death of Shanda.
Melinda brings a knife, ostensibly to scare Shanda.
The pack mentality can take on a life of its own. The leader determines what's going to happen, and the other members of the group, sometimes they'll go along with it to impress the leader, and sometimes they go along with it because they're afraid of going against the leader.
The plan was to lure Shanda into the car, that her good friend Amanda was waiting for her.
There were not mean-looking, dirty child molesters. There were two children that looked like her that were not threatening, and they said, just walk 25 feet and talk to her. And that's what she did. And they had her.
I think when the knife was first put to her throat, some of the followers just thought this was kind of a game, that they really had no idea it was going to end where it did.
It would be the last day Shanda's mom, Jackie, ever saw her daughter.
Shanda had never been anywhere that we didn't know where she was or who she was with. Shanda wasn't allowed to go anybody's house that I didn't call the parents, that I didn't go there. I was very, very protective.
Shanda is driven to the countryside, then assaulted. Led by Melinda, 17-year-old Lori Tackett joins in.
Lori took the most active role in helping Melinda. And the other two girls, I think, were just kind of going along, something to do on a Saturday night. There's really no indication that they knew what was going to happen.
After the attack, Shanda is tossed in the trunk. Before dawn, things will only get worse. In the dark morning hours, in the winter of 1992, one of the Midwest's most horrific crimes is playing out. 12-year-old Shanda Sharer has been lured into a car, assaulted, and tied up. Her teenage captors appear to be on a thrill kill.
Shut up.
It really isn't that difficult to kill someone quickly if you have a knife and they are disabled. They can't run away from you. And yet, we didn't see that in this crime. We saw a very long, drawn-out, horrible torture.
Shanda suffers unimaginable abuse. Hope Rippey sprays window cleaner as the assault ends.
One could say Hope really didn't want to deal her a fatal blow, but felt compelled to do something to make it look like she was into the murder.
15-year-old Toni Lawrence is the only one to resist.
I can only imagine that she was terrified. If they did that to her, they can do that to me. Oftentimes they become paralyzed with fear. And yet she was able to say, I'm not going to be a part of this, I'm not going to look, I'm not going to do anything. But she must have been terrified.
Shanda's ordeal has continued for 8 hours. At dawn, her tormentors finally put an end to it.
Well, I think these girls used gasoline because partly they didn't know what they were doing. I think if they'd found some big heavy boulders, they would have dropped them on her body. It was just whatever was convenient, whatever popped into their mind.
The way it was told to me, they drove away and turned around and came back past the body thinking that she would be burned completely up and there would be no trace of her, and she was still there, so Melinda set her on fire again. And then we went to McDonald's and had breakfast.
But Shanda wasn't dead.
They identified soot in her airways, which means at some point she had actually inhaled or was breathing in the fumes, the fire, the burning contents that were all around her. This indicates to all forensic pathologists that she was conscious.
They didn't know how to tell me how she had died, and I saw it on television that she'd been burned alive. I didn't know that.
Later that day, Melinda confesses to ex-girlfriend Amanda Hevron.
Amanda.
She told me everything that had happened. I thought it was a joke, because I just can't fathom that 4 girls would do this to another human being. This is, this is stuff you wouldn't even do to an animal,
In Melinda's mind, it might have been simple. Remove the competition, and then you'll be number 1 again. She also might have been telling her partly as, look what I can do. And I'll do it to you if you don't come back to me. We don't know.
81 clear. 8814 clear.
That evening, Toni Lawrence, the only one of the 4 who refused to participate, turns herself in and tells police everything.
8814 clear.
Before the night is out, Shanda's killers are behind bars. Shanda's death shatters her family.
She weighed 77 pounds.
In 91. The year before, that was the year before she died.
There would be another victim, Shanda's father.
Steve could not have been a prouder father. Shanda was his life. From the day that she died, he did everything he could to kill himself besides putting a gun to his head. And finally, he drank himself to death, and he died at 53.
What could motivate such a crime? Jealousy? Pack behavior? or something else, made possible by other people not even on trial. It's alleged most of the girls came from troubled or abusive homes.
I think every horrible thing that happened to each one of those girls, everything they had held in all their life, they took it out on my child. I think that's what they were doing. I think they just all exploded that night.
Court testimony revealed Melinda had a violent father who abused her mother, her sisters, and a cousin for years.
I think the outrageous home life that Melinda was subjected to at the hands of her father and the mother who didn't protect her from that played a tremendous role in why she eventually grew up to be a murderer.
None of these girls were born murderers. They weren't born to murder children. They weren't born to be in prison. This is what we do as parents. We mold our children into what they are.
All four were tried as adults and pled guilty. Tony Lawrence, the least involved, was sentenced to 20 years, but was released in 2000. Accomplice Hope Rippey was sentenced to 60 years, but released early in 2006. Still serving their 60-year sentences in Indiana State Women's Prison, Lori Tackett and Melinda Loveless, the teenager whose violent past and catastrophic jealousy created a thrill killer.
Melinda Loveless is the closest thing you will ever look at and know what the devil is. Her eyes are empty. There's nothing inside of her.
The suburbs have harbored their share of deadly women. But until 1979, one of its institutions had been largely untouched by violence or death. On Monday, January 29, that would change forever.
This is one of the most unthinkable, horrendous crimes that could ever occur in California, in the nation, and in the world.
The city is San Diego, California. School teacher Daryl Barnes heads off for another day.
I was a teacher for 38 years. I enjoyed the community and I enjoyed the kids that were there. It was an extremely pleasant experience until the incident happened.
Across the road from Daryl's school, Grover Cleveland Elementary, 16-year-old Brenda Spencer is home alone. Her single-parent father has left for work. But Brenda isn't preparing for class. She's looking for a thrill. This Monday would spawn a hit song and become the most infamous school day in modern history.
It's difficult to think of anything more evil than shooting into a crowd of school children.
For District Attorney Richard Sachs, that Monday starts a case he's followed for 30 years.
This was the country's, if not the world's, first school shooting type of case. Before January 1979, this type of behavior, this type of crime was unheard of.
It's a Monday that will scar Cam Miller, then just 9 years old.
Every day I wake up, I see the scar on my chest, and it's a constant daily reminder that I'm fortunate to be alive.
Every parent wants nothing more than to protect their child. In this particular case, these parents thought they were doing that by sending their kids to school.
as I walked up to the school. Apparently she saw me. I was wearing a blue vest, and I was a good target because she liked blue, so she shot at her favorite colors. The bullet actually went in my back and out my chest.
These .22 caliber rounds are going to be traveling probably at excess of 1,600 to 2,000 feet per second. So when something is going that quickly through your body, you won't perceive pain, but you will perceive a shock from the transfer of the kinetic energy.
The principal and I were sitting in the office talking, and we heard this pop, pop, pop. It sounded like firecrackers to us, and it got our attention. I saw children either fall or grab a part of their body and start crying. Some screaming, some just look around in shock. We didn't know where this was coming from.
Undetected, Brenda had the school under siege. As news of the killings gets out, the country goes into collective shock. They're asking, how can a killer open fire at defenseless children in a suburban schoolyard?
One thing we can say with absolute certainty is having a gun accessible to a minor greatly contributed to the case and was absolutely wrong and illegal.
Brenda's .22 caliber rifle is a Christmas present from her father.
There is no question in my mind that Brenda's father bears a tremendous amount of responsibility for what happened. Buying a rifle and supplying her with bullets, he has much to be ashamed of.
Brenda had been known in the neighborhood as a troublemaker. Colleen Davidson was just 5 when she first tried to befriend her.
One of my first memories is going to her house, and I had my Barbie doll, and she ripped its head off, and I was really upset because she said she was going to give me some clothes for it, and I went home crying.
Doll mutilation is something that we have seen in children who later become, and teenagers who later become killers or stalkers of others. It can show a rage against the owner of the doll, or that's how she's abused at home by someone. She's recreating it.
Brenda would later accuse her father of sexual abuse.
What I see is a person who felt like, I don't have anyone that loves me. I don't have anyone that even cares about me. I can die tomorrow and everybody will be happier. And that was her state of mind, you see. So she felt, if I'm miserable, I'm gonna spread the misery to other people. Why not?
Before that fateful January day, no one really knew what was going on in Brenda Spencer's mind. But soon she will tell the world. A 16-year-old girl, Brenda Spencer is firing .22 caliber bullets into innocent children. Dropped off at San Diego's Grover Cleveland Elementary School.
I realized that I had to get these kids out of here, and that was going to be a big deal because I had to get the ones that were wounded in the office, and there were still kids coming down the street.
Teacher Daryl Barnes is joined by Principal Burton Ragg, who bravely jumps into the line of fire.
There was 3 more pops, which were shots by Brenda Spencer. And he twirled and dropped down immediately right there at the front of the school. I ran over to him. He had a big red spot right on his chest, right here.
A gunshot wound to the aorta is a very lethal event. The aorta is the major blood vessel that leaves the heart. It transfers oxygenated blood to all the organs in the body. It is putting out blood at a very rapid rate. Very, very difficult to survive, even with immediate medical care.
Principal Ragg dies at the scene. Daryl risks his life to save the wounded.
Of course, I didn't stop her from shooting 8 kids, but at least I got them out of that area in case she wanted to continue to shoot at them.
There is more courage that day. School custodian Michael Sukar also braves the sniper.
He was taking a blanket to put over Burton Ray. 3 shots rang out and hit him. He'd been in the service where this is the kind of thing he did. Never been scratched a day in his life in war.
Michael, too, will die of his wounds.
I think the fact that Brenda shot on and on and on kind of speaks for itself in that she was enjoying it and it was doing something for her. Absolute power and control over the lives of others.
By 9 a.m., police have arrived.
I hadn't had a chance to talk to this police officer except to say, well, there's some bodies out in front, and so he was crawling out to see if he could assist them, and then she shot again.
Officer Robert Robb is shot in the neck.
She was a very, very good shot. She used very good accuracy in order to hit this many.
The death toll only stops when police moved a garbage truck to block Brenda's firing line. Before Brenda makes her next move, a journalist calls, asking why.
When Brenda said to the reporter, "I did it because I don't like Mondays," when I first read that, it occurred to me that she certainly was not mentally ill when she did it. It was too flippant and sarcastic an answer for someone who's seriously mentally ill. I worked with the seriously mentally ill for 10 years. That's not the kind of answer you get when you ask them a question. And I think it shows Brenda's contempt for society.
After a 6-hour standoff, Brenda finally surrenders.
She shot approximately 36 times. She wounded 8 school children, 1 police officer, killed the principal of the school and the school custodian. Nine injured, 2 dead, 36 rounds fired, 11 hits.
In April 1980, Brenda Spencer is imprisoned for 25 years to life. She has applied for parole 4 times. Each time, it's been denied.
This is the type of case where, in our view, she should never be released from prison. She should spend the rest of her entire life in prison for what she's done.
I don't have any animosities or vengeance towards Brenda Spencer. I forgave her a long time ago, but I do believe that it's important that she pays the consequences of her judgment.
Many of us don't like Mondays, but Brenda Spencer had so much more not to like. Not the least of it, an abusive father who bought her a gun that she tragically used for a sick and twisted thrill. A link between excitement and murder. The idea of a thrill kill shocks every society wherever it happens. One morning, the Australian city of Brisbane awoke to news of a most horrific murder.
He was covered in blood, absolutely covered in blood.
In October 1989, Detective Pat Glancy gets a case he'll never forget.
I've seen some shockers, believe me, I have. That murder scene would rate up among the top ones.
At the crime scene, a naked father of 5 lay dead. He appeared to be stabbed, with his throat savagely slashed.
When we rolled the body over, I truly thought that the head was going to detach from the body. It just almost went its own way, and it was most uncomfortable.
Who could commit such a brutal crime? That first day, no one could have guessed.
I don't think we even considered the idea of it being a female. We just assumed it had been done by men or a number of men.
Detective Glancy and his fellow investigators would be drawn into a world of feminine darkness, a world of the occult, of Gothic ritual, of a belief in vampires.
It's hard to believe that the allegations or the report is true. As it turned out, everything was true.
State prosecutor Adrian Gundelach found himself in the middle of a unique murder case where the motive seemed to be a lust for blood.
Tracy Wigginton, who I would suggest was the main instigator, was telling these girls and leading them along the path to believe that she was a vampire and that she needed human blood to keep going.
The black arts had long fascinated 24-year-old Tracy Wigginton. Tracy fantasizes about the occult, holds seances, reads tarot cards. She is physically strong and chooses lesbian girlfriends with similar interests. It's all a far cry from her devout Catholic upbringing.
Teenagers frequently develop interest in the very opposite of what they think their family would want them to do. If a child is forced to go to church and they're going to act out and be defiant, an interest in the occult would be exactly the thing they'd go for.
Tracy's upbringing left her something else. A small fortune, which she is lavishing on friends and her passion for the occult. The money is an inheritance from her grandparents, who raised Tracy after her mother abandoned her at age 4. Tracy's friends are drawn in by a wealthy, forceful young woman, promising excitement. Dark passions are becoming more than fantasy. Tracy's friends will say they've seen her drink blood.
And I said, "Had you seen her drink the blood?" She said, "I have given her blood," she said. She said, "I used my blade that I used for leather work," she said, "and I slit my veins for her, and she sucked the blood from my veins."
This is so unusual. Drinking blood would certainly, from a physiologic standpoint, cause iron overload in an individual. At a minimum, it would cause some gastric upset, and is so socially unacceptable.
Vampirism is a clinical term. Being aroused by the idea of blood and drinking blood. That actually is a clinical perversion.
Whatever Tracy's motivation, she's beginning to contemplate a terrible crime. During meetings with her friends, Tracy Wigginton tells them she needs fresh blood. Amongst her close circle, Tracy Waugh, her lover Lisa Paczynski, and Kim Jarvis. It is only Lisa who has given her blood. But this time, she wants blood from someone else. as yet unknown, a murder victim.
So they planned to get a man. That man that they got was poor Mr. Baldock, I'm afraid.
47-year-old Edward Baldock is the unluckiest man in Brisbane on the night of October 21, 1989. He was chosen at random, the first vulnerable male the girls could find. Paradoxically, Edward thinks things are going his way. He's just won at darts at a local bar and spent his winnings on a few drinks.
And he was very inebriated when he left. He had a blood alcohol content over 0.3%. So he's an easy victim to lure into the car with 4 young girls.
Edward thinks his lucky streak is continuing. 4 young girls offering a lift, and from Tracy, perhaps something more.
There was obviously talk that she was prepared to have sex with him and she'd give him a good time. I think she also indicated that the other girls were available if he felt like them.
The girls take their victim to a secluded riverbank. It's well after midnight. Edward appears willing to leave the car and follow Tracy to a boat shed closer to the water.
The 3 waited in the car while Wigginton took him down the back. And the interviewing officer said, "What was your thoughts at that time?" And she said, "I was going to kill him. Very cold, I was going to kill him."
What now?
But Tracy doesn't strike immediately.
What's our guy? Oh, come on.
She appears to lull her victim into a false sense of promise and security.
What are you going to do?
Then, Tracy excuses herself for a moment.
Hey.
Edward has the presence of mind to take some precaution with his newfound friend. He hides his wallet.
He had that sixth sense, I suppose. He thought he might be robbed. So he slipped his wallet under the corrugated door of the nearby sailing shed.
Edward finds a loose credit card, and assuming it's his, hides that too. It would be one of Edward's last actions.
Tracy, you gotta see.
In Brisbane, Australia, occult enthusiast Tracy Wigginton is asking her friends to help her commit murder. She has her victim. All she needs now are weapons and assistance. But only one, her lover Lisa Paczynski, agrees to the thrill kill. Edward Baldock has been lured to his death. But Lisa freezes. Tracy does not.
She said she stabbed in as hard as she could and that the knife went right to the hilt. She said she got the knife and tried to get into the bones. That was her words, tried to get into the bones.
Tracy's first blow almost severs Edward's spinal cord.
It tells me there was a great deal of force, one which would have cut through all of this bone and nearly cut that spinal cord in half.
Now the murder takes on a new vicious frenzy.
She just brutally stabbed him. It was 17 or 18 times, according to the pathologist. And the hole in his back was as large as a bread and butter plate. It was huge.
Another deep slash to her victim's throat. Then, the reason Tracy gave for wanting to kill an innocent stranger. Blood.
Kim Jarvis was asked, did she drink the blood? Did Wigginton drink the blood? She said when she arrived back, she looked like she'd had a 3-course meal.
Something happened that night no one believed possible. Not the police, not the victim, perhaps not even the girls who had gone along for the ride. Only Tracy knew. Only Tracy had the desire and the will to carry it out.
It was a very depraved and very cruel murder, and it's one of the worst.
But the killer would be caught because of a thoughtless mistake. The credit card Edward hid for safety that night had been dropped by Tracy.
I later checked those shoes after they'd been photographed, and I found the bank card was in the name of T.A. Wigington.
Detective Glancy's discovery helped lock away the woman local newspapers dubbed Brisbane's lesbian vampire killer. Tracy Wigington was judged to be sane and convicted of first-degree murder. She serves a life sentence.
I don't think she should ever be released, I really don't. It was just so vicious and done by a woman, a very, very cold, calculating woman.
Lover Lisa Paczynski was also found guilty, though she never physically assaulted the victim. Kim Jarvis, who was judged to play a lesser role, was jailed for manslaughter. Tracy Waugh, who stayed in the car, was found not guilty.
I just can't understand how 3 other girls would follow this woman with these horrific ideas.
Since the police interviews in which she confessed, Tracy Wigington has refused to speak again of the crime. We can only speculate why she wanted to be a vampire, in search of the ultimate thrill.
The stalking, the choosing the victim, the luring him, the way that they dressed, and the multiple stab wounds, and then, of course, the drinking of the blood. That was all part of what her fantasy was, and something that she felt needed to be there for this crime to be complete.
For these deadly women, an ordinary life was not enough. They crossed the line, falling into darkness, looking for something more thrilling. For Melinda Lovelace, it was the thrill of revenge. For Brenda Spencer, the thrill of control. For Tracy Wigington, the thrill of the occult. Most of us know that the need for excitement must be controlled. That left unchecked, it can become sick and depraved. Not these deadly women.